A new initiative never seen before in the history of our country, a level of spending that's unprecedented. Joining me now in this hour that we have to speak to the American people is one of our new freshmen. His name is Mr. Jason Chaffetz, and he hails from Utah's 3rd Congressional District. We're very excited to have him join us to speak now to this body and to the American people on spending and what that means for our economy. Well, Mr. Chaffetz, I yield.
I thank the gentlewoman. It's a pleasure and honor to serve in the United States Congress. I'm a freshman here. I didn't create this problem, but I am here to help clean it up. You know, I argued for a long time that the Republican spending was far too egregious, that we were spending far too much money and continued to propel ourselves into debt that was unsustainable and unacceptable, in my opinion. It's funny, though, that as I hear the Democrats argue that, well, there was all this out-of-control spending when the Republicans were in charge, that somehow that's changed, that somehow deficit spending is change. It's not. It's partly what got us into this problem. We, on an average day, have added $2.8 billion to our national debt since January of 2007. That doesn't count the stimulus. That doesn't count the bailouts. That doesn't count any of these nearly $2 trillion of additional spending that we have seen this Congress all too often just quickly go off and give away. We cannot run this government on a credit card. Our families can't do that. My family can't do that. The American people can't do that. This federal government has got to stop doing that. We don't have a revenue problem in this country for our federal government. We do have a spending problem. We have a huge spending problem. I remember when I was in college, not too long ago, but it was a while ago, and I had my monthly stipend for the month. And at about week 3, I ran out of money. And I thought, you know, I'll just call Mom and Dad, and they'll just send me the money. So I called up and talked to my mom. She said, no, I'm sorry, you're going to have to figure it out. And then my dad said, which I really didn't want to call, he said, you had your allowance, you got to learn to live within it. It's one of the most valuable lessons that I ever learned. I have learned more about top ramen noodles than anybody in this country in that week. And it was a good thing. It was a healthy thing. It made me reprioritize what was important. It made me think through what was a priority in my life. And I couldn't just go on the credit card and continue to spend more money. The primary reason I ran for the United States Congress is because I care about the future and that we were on a trajectory that was unsustainable. That until we return to those core principles of fiscal discipline, limited government, accountability, and a strong national defense, we would continue to suffer as a nation. And right at the top of that list is fiscal discipline. Because there are things, there are roles and responsibilities that our government has to execute on. And we can all point to failures, we can all point to successes. But fundamentally, the spending in this Congress, the spending that is proposed by the Obama administration, is simply unacceptable. We cannot be all things to all people. And what I'm concerned is that the rhetoric is not matching the reality. I sat right here in this chamber, row 7, thrilled and honored to watch the President of the United States address the joint session of Congress. He asked in that session that we present bills, appropriation bills, free of earmarks. And yet the very next day, it hadn't even been 24 hours, the House of Representatives passed a bill with more than 8,500 earmarks. I'm proud to say I voted no on that. There was a presentation that said that they wanted more openness, that we wanted more transparency, that we were going to get 5 days to review a bill online, that the American people will get to see what's in these bills. And that we, as a body here in the House of Representatives, would have 48 hours to be able to see what's in a bill before we voted on it. Unanimously passed this body in a resolution, and yet just over 12 hours later, we got the single largest spending bill in the history of the United States. It was more than 1,000 pages. We had just over 12 hours. That's not openness. That's not transparency. And the consequence is out-of-control spending. It was $1 trillion, a number so big it's not even fathomable. And now we look and we hear people say, well, we're not going to rate, 95% of Americans are not going to pay one dime more in taxes. That is not true. It is not true. The American people, I hope you digest this, it is not true. The so-called carbon tax or the cap and trade is a tax that would be paid by 100% of Americans. 100% of Americans. If you consume or use any form of energy, you're going to have to pay this tax. Now, I want to take care of the environment. I care about the environment, but this is simply not the time and the way to do it. And as you look at this chart here, what is sickening to me and our future is what's going to happen with our debt. Because over the course, based on the President's presentation, based on the spending plan that he has put together, based on the President's budget, we are going to double our national debt to $20 trillion. Somebody has to pay that. It's the American people that are going to pay that. My kids, their grandkids. We have got to cut the size and scope of government. We cannot be all things to all people. Somehow, some way, we have got to find a way to be disciplined enough to say, enough is enough. Let's prioritize those things that are most important, that we have to do to protect and take care of the American people. But we cannot continue this out-of-control spending. Just over 10 years ago, our federal budget was $1.5 trillion. Now we're over $3 trillion, on our way to $4 trillion, and that doesn't count the bailouts and the stimulus and the others who are already beating the drum saying, we need more. No, you don't. We need to cut spending and cut back the size and scope of government because, in my opinion, this government right now is spending too much, the administration is taxing too much, and this administration is absolutely borrowing too much money. And with that, I'd like to yield back my time to the gentlewoman from Minnesota. Thank you.
Thank you.